Good morning, friends. Today we will see about this NISM Series 8 Equity Derivatives, Lesson 3. That is, we will continue from the previous lesson where we have discussed about various types of derivatives. So, 4 types of derivative instruments we have seen. That is forwards, futures, options, and swaps. Now we will continue with that discussion. Let me open the slides for you. That is what we're discussing here in this chapter 1. So this is lesson 3 we're discussing. So let me go to the full say. So now here, if you see here, there is I think we have to sorry for that. Let me share the slides for you. So here, if you see, so various types of derivatives we have seen. Now, these 4 types of derivatives basically. Now, if you take this slide, I think there's some problem with this PPT. Okay. So let me now see what is this OTC derivatives market. Now, out of the 4 types of derivatives we have seen, we can say that forwards, the instrument of forwards and swaps are OTC derivatives. So what do you mean by these OTC derivatives? OTC derivatives means the contracts are tailor-made. That means you can negotiate. 2 parties can negotiate and decide on the terms of the contract. Like suppose what we see between a wheat farmer and a company, ITC. That means both of them can negotiate and say that I need only this 1000 kgs wheat. A contract for 1000 kgs selling of wheat, or 500 kgs, or 600 kgs, like that. That means there is no standardization of the contract. Or they can say that 3 months, after 3 months, after 2 months, after 6 months, like the time period also can be negotiated. So all the terms can be negotiated in a OTC contract. And second thing is, the counterparty or credit risk is decentralized. That means there is no intermediary between these two parties. That is, suppose now wheat farmer is one side, ITC is another side. So there is no centralization. Central party is not there. So that means the credit risk is not with one entity. The risk is not centralized, what we say. Okay. So the risk is borne by different players. But if you see, whereas in the exchange traded contract, exchange comes in between the buyer and seller, and the risk is centralized with the exchange. That's why it is a what we call the exchange is called a central counterparty or CCP. So not exactly exchange, what we call it is a clearing corporation. Suppose their trades are done on NSE, and we have a what we call NSCCL, NSE Clearing Corporation Limited. So NSE Clearing Corporation will take on the risk of these total contracts. So that's what we call credit risk is centralized, central counterparty. So NSCCL is the counterparty where all the risk is centralized. That is the reason why they collect so many things. They collect margins, they have a settlement guarantee fund. So it is all maintained to protect the market in case of default by any party. Either it may buyer or seller. So we want to protect the system. We want to protect the trust of the system in this centralized trading. Okay. And in this, now we are seeing this OTC derivatives. In this OTC derivatives, what happens is no formal centralized limits on individual positions, leverage, or margining. So that means they depending upon the company, that is whatever ITC, it can take on huge positions. Okay. Or a bank, suppose between a company and bank, they are negotiating some contracts, foreign exchange contracts, and there is no limits. The bank will take on different types of risk, different level of risk. So in this OTC market, there is no formal rules or mechanisms for risk management. So there is no formal rules, only that whatever the board or whatever the persons in the bank responsible for these derivatives does, they will design. There is no some sort of a regulator or some person who will impose risk management thing. So that's why you have seen a lot of failures in this what we call derivatives disasters. Warren Buffett, you might be knowing. Warren Buffett calls these derivatives are weapons of mass destruction. Because of these a lot of failures of the banks, risk management failures. These derivatives have got a lot of companies. If you see, there are some instances where this risk management has gone wrong, or people have not followed any mechanism. Or sometimes what happens is, if you see the case of Nick Leeson or Barings Bank, you can see in this Barings Bank, what happened is the same person is doing the trading and the same person is the risk manager. Same person is clearing the trades. So that means what happens is the risk management is not known to that is the positions. What are the positions the bank is carrying or the particular trading desk is carrying is not known to the top management. And there is that problem of the Barings Bank has to be sold for $1 to that means almost it has gone bankrupt. So Barings Bank is a no huge history, and Barings Bank and the account of the British Queen is held by the Barings Bank. So banker to the royal families. So here and these transactions are private with little or no disclosure to the entire market. So there is no rules to disclose these OTC derivatives to the market. So what the contract entered between a company and a bank, like say suppose some ICICI bank to the foreign exchange risk, it is not disclosed to the market, entire market. It's not. Whereas in case of exchange traded derivatives, every second the information is there in the public. Suppose we are trading on the NSE, every second that is it is a very transparent market. What is happening in the derivative contracts? How many contracts are being traded? What is the open interest? That is how many open contracts are there? What is the percentage change in the open interest? All these things are there, and the continuous risk management is continuously being done. So that's why even in case of this COVID crisis, even when the market has fallen by 50%, there is no defaults in the market. There are no counterparty exposures. That means there are two types of risk in the market. The market risk is there. Suppose I purchased a stock, due to this fall, due to this crisis, market is going down and the stock is falling. So I will get loss. There is a market risk. Nobody can escape from that. But I have purchased a stock and the other person is not giving me that stock. That means he is for defaulting. So that type of risks are not there. So that is the beauty of the exchange traded derivatives, risk management, because a lot of things are there. You have margins, you have client-wise limits, market-wide position limits, different types of margins. Mark-to-market margins are there, where value at risk margins are there, initial margins are there. So huge number of risk control mechanisms. So risk control mechanism of an exchange itself is a big subject. So risk management. So I think you can go through this, huge literature is available, how market risk management is done. Okay. So this is about this market, that is OTC market. Now if you come to exchange traded, ETC market, exchange traded contracts. So the beauty of the exchange traded contracts is they are standardized. Okay. Suppose that means if you take one contract, so suppose we take one contract of Kotak Bank, they say that 400 quantity of the Kotak Bank is one contract. So what they will do, they will take the 400 shares of the Kotak Bank and put it in a box and seal it and say that this is one contract. Now you can't say, no, I don't want 400 shares of Kotak Bank. You give me only 200 shares of Kotak Bank as one contract. No, because it is a standardized. It is like going to a wholesale market and they say that I'm giving you this box of apples. No, you give me half the box. No, you can take one box, two box, or multiples of that contracts. So like that, if you one contract of Kotak Bank is 400 rupees, well, that is 400 shares. Two contracts means 800, three contracts means 1200, like that. So this contract is standardized. And the other terms also standardized. Suppose they say that the Kotak Bank October contract will be closed on when this Thursday. That means what? On 29th. So 29th of October, the Kotak Bank derivatives contracts will expire. So you say, no, please extend it to up to Monday or up to Friday because I have some work. No, because it is a standardized contract. Whereas in OTC situation, you can tailor made. It's like tailor-made and ready-made. Exchange-traded contracts are ready-made. And these are traded on organized exchanges. So now we have some organized exchanges like NSE. So in the beauty of NSE is that it has huge volumes are being traded, and you see it is number one in the world in terms of the contracts traded, huge volumes, because of course, because of transaction size is small. In terms of volume, it is basically US markets, because it is the mother of all markets, where a huge number of almost 70 per 60% of the people we are involved with the financial markets. They have their savings account, their trading accounts, demat accounts, and all mutual fund investments. The awareness of the financial markets and their savings, per capita income, so many factors are there, where US market is the number one. Now, how the price discovery is done in these organized exchanges? The price is determined by the interaction of buyer and sellers through anonymous auction platform. How do we come to know that? How this price over the, for suppose 1400, Kotak Bank, excuse me, Kotak Bank futures price is 1400. How this price will come? This price will come through demand and supply, through interaction of buyers and sellers. So ultimately, at the end of the day, what is the basic function of the exchange? What is the important output of the exchange? The output of the exchange is nothing but the closing prices. Now, Kotak Bank closing price is 1400. That means the market, the buyers and sellers have interacted through this trading system and come to a price, discovered price of 1400. How they have come to this price? To buy and buying and selling. How they buy and sell? Because of new information. Now you have new information of Kotak Bank results have come, so people evaluate it. So how you evaluate? How you evaluate? Through money, through skin in the game. It is not like you can't give opinions. You have to put your money on the line. That's why don't take any unsolicited opinion. Or when a person is not having any skin in the game, don't take his advice. That means there will people who will be giving free advice. So because they don't lose anything. That type of people, we say that those who they don't have skin in the game. There's a beautiful book by Nassim Taleb called Skin in the Game, SITZ. So how whatever we do, unless we have skin in the game, then it will be fake sort of a approach to the problem. Okay. Next, a clearing house or clearing corporation guarantees contract performance. That means there is in exchange traded ETC market, there will always be a clearing corporation. Like in case of NSE, we have NSCCL, clearing corporation. It guarantees contract performance. Suppose I'm a buyer and the other person is seller, and I don't know about the seller. It's an anonymous transaction. So I am only looking at NSCCL. So NSCCL guarantees my payments. NSCCL guarantees the other person's shares or whatever. So all the payments these all will be guaranteed by the NSCCL whenever you trade through their platform. That's why NSCCL is necessary to be adequately capitalized, to maintain margins, to maintain funds, like we have settlement guarantee fund, trade guarantee fund. Whenever that type of huge corpus, thousands of crores are with the clearing corporation. So you can see that is all some of the points we have come through this significance of derivatives market. So derivatives market, what is the significance is it improves price discovery based on actual valuations and expectations. So if derivatives market is not there, what will be the problem? The problem is that some opinions you can't express in the market. Suppose I know that Reliance will go down. Okay. There are two types of transactions in the financial market. You can go long or you can go short. Go long means I can buy Reliance at 2000 and when it goes up to 2500, I can sell. Another type of transaction also you can take in financial market. It's very peculiar to financial market that you can sell first and buy later. If your expectation is that the price of Reliance will go down because of some negative news, you can sell at 2500, and if it comes back, if it comes down as per your expectations, you can buy at 2000 and square it off and take that 500 profit. So it is not possible in physical markets. Only in speculative markets is possible. You understand? Because suppose if I think that prices of houses in Hyderabad will go down, I can't sell my neighbor's house and I can't say that when it goes down I will purchase and again give it to you. Then I will be treated as a criminal and a lot of problems are there. So this is the difference between physical markets or asset-based markets and financial markets or speculative markets. No, in speculative markets, suppose you don't have shares, then how do you express a negative view on that asset, negative view on that stock, on currency or commodity? So all type of people have to be allowed to express their opinions, subject to risk management, subject to margining, subject to fulfilling the conditions of the exchange. Then we will get a efficient market, or what we call a perfect market. What we let us not bring into efficiency. Perfect market. Perfect market means where everybody has equal chance of expressing their opinion in the market, whether it is a person who wants to go long, person who wants to go short. That's why sometimes what happens is the governments will interfere in this fair functioning of the exchanges. We have seen in the case of coronavirus movements, a lot of governments banned short selling, fearing that it will, the short selling is driving the prices down. So there is a lot of debate on whether short selling helps the price discovery or whether short selling need to be banned. And there are two sides of that coin. I think you can check the literature on that. The thing is that transfer of various risk from those who are exposed to risk but have low risk appetite to participants with high risk appetite. That means, you see, in the financial market, there are different types of participants, different types of people are there. Some people cannot take risk. Some people want risk. Some people are after a huge risk. Is it not? Now, suppose I normally tell in the classes, some of these, many of you might have seen this Anaconda movie. In this Anaconda movie, there is this person who wants to catch the big snake. He is always after the big risk, big snake. Even if he catches small snakes, he throws it into that river. I think he's a very famous actor. I think Anthony Hopkins. I think Anthony Hopkins, very popular actor. So he is always his risk appetite is high. He's after high risk. Of course, he has tools of his own. Whatever tools he has a big drum. He has a big stick and net, and all these things are there. And he is already an expert. He's not known to the other people in the. He has a lot of practice. He has seen. He is familiar with the territory. He knows what are the signals the snake brings. It's not like in financial market also. A lot of signals before big move comes. like the foreign exchange market gives hints, commodity markets gives hints, and volatility index gives hints. So there are a lot of things that presage a big move by the financial markets. So that's why the financial markets has to, this derivative markets will transfer, will allow. Suppose if the farmer doesn't want the risk, price risk, so he will sell a contract and lock in his price. The ITC doesn't want to take the risk of the going up, so it will buy the contract and lock in his prices. Because why? Because ITC's core competence is in manufacturing, in selling that atta. It is not no, in the business of speculation of the prices of wheat. So if you take an example, hedgers want to give away the risk, whereas traders are willing to take the risk. So in case of hedgers means wheat farmer, he wants to hedge his position. Shift of speculative trades from unorganized market to organized market. So this is where we are separating this F&O segment to be neatly managed. Otherwise, what happens is both mixing means like what happened in Badla. Earlier, we used to have, before 1994, we used to have a Badla system where there is no separate no futures and options market or derivatives market. So it is used to give a lot of trouble. So all cash market and Badla market used to coexist, and a lot of problems are there. So we want to separate speculation. That's why in cash market, only people who can trade, people have to trade in rolling settlement. That means you buy in the morning. If you don't square off by 3:30, that means it is separate settlement. The trade goes into settlement. At T+2, you have to pay the money or take the shares. If you want to trade beyond one day, you have to go to the derivatives segment. Then your trades will be subjected to margins and all these things. You have an initial margin, you have an MTM margin, you have a WAR margin, you have a extreme loss margin, ELM margin. All sort of margins are there, and depending upon a framework by the exchange, and there is what we call a span margining system. And risk management mechanism, surveillance of activities of various participants in organized space provides stability to the financial system. So this, because the markets are designed in such a way that they will be going up and down, but financial systems stability is protected because we are, we always have controls on the speculation where we have a proper mechanisms. That means market-based management of risk. It is not that some bureaucrats will say that this is so. Free market mechanisms are allowed to participate in this exchange traded derivatives market. So that is the beauty of the ETC market. So thank you very much. I think this is how this chapter 1 is given here. If you have any doubts, you can put it in the comments. We will go into the next tomorrow. We will start in another lesson.